Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Happiness Retreat. I am your host, Kimberly Treves, and today we have the good fortune to be with my dear friend and colleague, the ultra multi-talented Three Trees, who is a healer, a teacher, a musician, an artist, and nationally and internationally recognized for his creation of love, the SoulMonic Sound Healing journeys, which he offers as workshops, retreats, trainings, and so much more. Hello, Three Trees, and thank you so much for taking your time to share with us today.
Hi, Kimberly. Thank you so much for having me.
It is such a pleasure every time I connect with you. So, Three Trees, as this conversation is all about spirituality and the soul and becoming a master of your own energy, I'm
Is that
so
what this is
glad.
about? Oh.
Well, we'll try. I'm so happy you're here to
You better
talk.
hurry.
I know, right?
We better get on with it.
Okay.
We got a lot to cover.
Let's do it. So tell us, while we're here, in the amount of time we have, how sound is a vehicle for transformation. And if you would please start, I know you personally have a very, very unique journey. So could you please give us a little bit about your background and what prompted you to become interested in the sound healing modalities?
All right. So there's different lengths of this story. So I'm going to try to keep it short. But basically, I was always into music as a kid. It always kind of came natural to me. I was always figuring out commercials as a little kid on the piano we had in the house and jingles and things like that. But I went into aspiring to be a rock and roll star, as a lot of young teenagers do. And so I kind of went for it and was pretty successful at it for many years. Of course, well, the early years weren't all that successful, but later on finally got together with the band, and we were together about 7-8 years, and we got pretty big in the tri-state area of where I grew up in Michigan. And so, we're doing Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, and back then there wasn't really internet, so we had to lick all our postcards and our stamps to get our gigs out to everyone and slowly build our mailing list. But yeah, so we did that, and we were pretty successful. We had a lot of record companies that were always looking at us, but we were like a jam band, and all our songs were mostly more than 7-8 minutes long, and so the record companies were always like, great music, and when you write radio friendly songs, let us know. And we were like, screw the establishment, we'll do it our way, right? So but we were really a successful grassroots kind of style. And then we got invited to go to Peru. We were based in Michigan State, and there was a lot of students from other countries and things. So this one person who really loved our band used to come see us all the time and was from Peru. He's like, one day, I don't know, 3-4 in the morning after a gig, hanging out after the college town, he's like, I bring you to Peru. And people say a lot of things when you're in rock and roll and late night. So we're like, yeah, viva Peru, and didn't think anything of it. And then a few months he went back, and a few months later we got a call and says, hey, we're setting up, this is my terrible Peruvian accent, we're setting up a tour for you guys to come down, and we got a sponsorship from Cerveza Cristal. And so we're like, woohoo, let's do it, and we went to Peru and toured there for 2.5 months. We were the first North American band to tour the entire country, and that was a big life changer for me. And a lot of things were awoken in me. Now, to give you a little background, our band was known for our notorious partying, and the bars would order extra cases of Jack Daniels whenever we would come to play at their bar, most of which was for the band.
Boy.
We were playing 5-6 nights a week nonstop, and you head out at you get at the bar at 3 in the afternoon and you leave at 5 in the morning, and that's like 5-6 nights a week plus the after hours party people were and so stop being. And it was a lot of fun, but I was also at the same time at this duality going of trying to get into a spiritual vibe and trying to have more spiritual connection and feel that connection. And because we were a jam band, and we were trying to be higher conscious as we got older through the years of the band, and we had a lot of hippies started coming. We started as punkers and slam dancing, and moved into like dead heads and fish heads and spinning and twirling, and so our vibe kind of changed through, but it was a great training ground in energy and how to allow music to just take you away, and how to be present in the moment and to really feel the energy and let the energy guide you. I always kind of use the reference as like jumping into the river and letting it take you to the ocean, right? That total surrender into the flow of the music was, and instead of trying to swim to the shore, just allow you to take it. And so there was a lot of training in our jam band, I believe, for me as I look back, to working with energy and being in the moment. But when we went to Peru, there was a lot of bubbles that were consciously popping, and I had to make a decision to, or get off the pot, right? So I had been longing to, shamanism was something that I was really feeling connected to as a past Christian and recovering Catholic. It was a way for me to explore all sorts of isms I could get my hands on. And mysticism and shamanism was really the ones that really resonated with me at the time. And I tried for a few years to do both, to live my dream, my teenage dream of rock and roll craziness, and to be the rock star, or to be someone who was very spiritual. And the way that it was working at that time just would not happen. So I never had any time for the doing. We were just constantly playing and partying. And so I had to make a decision. We got back to Peru. I decided to quit the band, move into the woods, bought a drum, and kind of started my journey. And one of the major parts of Peru that awoke me was we played with this Afro-Peruvian band called Mi Ambrosio. And it was in this sacred area. It was one of the big Cristal beer company, gave us 3 big gigs. One was international surfing championships, and then this other one, and this one in the mountains. And it was with this amazing Afro-Peruvian band. And it was the first time I had heard like real, like ethnic, spiritual drumming, powerful drumming. The most I had been exposed to was like Rusted Root back then, if you're familiar with them. So it was a little limited, and of course the Dead and Space and the jams there. But so when I heard those Afro-Peruvians come out on stage with all their djembes and full regalia and started playing, and the dancers came out, these women came out in full regalia and started dancing, and I was just thrown back, and I was like, what is that? I'm like, I need to know more about that. It like really awoke this thing in me that I really experienced later as maybe as a past life kind of thing. It was deep in me. And so soon after that was when I was like, I got to follow the spiritual path. I knew the drum was a big part of that. All the shamanic teachings that I was going through was all, about the drum and using the drum. I was a bass player, by the way. I wasn't a drummer. I was a bass player for about 18 years. And so I as I mentioned, quit the band, moved into the woods, and started my spiritual path, exploring and using the drum. Then there was a time where I became stuck when I was up there in the northern parts of Michigan, out in the woods, where I needed a teacher. So I had amassed quite a collection of amazing spiritual books and a lot of shamanic books and mystic books, because while we were traveling the country, doing all these touring, we would always stop into the town. And the first thing was, okay, where's the Goodwill to get some cool rock and roll clothes? And where was the cool bookstore for me and our bus driver, who was my spiritual buddy at the time. We would bounce ideas and spiritual ideas off each other. We would both look for the cool used bookstore and find the oldest, coolest, mystical find in the old used and read them to each other while we're touring. And I did this amassed a lot, but there's only so much, the difference from wisdom, knowledge and wisdom, right? So I was getting all this knowledge, but I couldn't do the doing to really gain the wisdom because of the rock and roll debauchery life that I was experiencing and living at the time. So yeah, so then I bought a drum and did my first kind of shamanic journey, and then I felt stuck afterwards and started calling in teachers. So at that time, I didn't realize sometimes you got to ask the universe for what you need, not just attendance. So I said it out loud, please send me to teachers. And I never met a shaman before that my whole life, up to 30 years or so. And then suddenly they started coming out of the woodwork, and teachers were coming from all over the place. Suddenly I was meeting all sorts of medicine people from different traditions, and started integrating those traditions and learning about those different traditions, and really realizing that there's very close similarities to many of them around the world as far as the indigenous medicine people, or shamans as we call them. So I really resonated with earth medicine. That's why I felt connected, was in nature, experiencing the earth. I was always a sky watcher and a tree hugger, even as a kid, and loved to dig in the dirt, and that's why I really felt connected. So shamanism really made sense to me. And then mysticism and the idea of the ego and the big I and the little I, and the duality of self there. And so those things really kind of started taking me on my path, and I didn't really know if music would be on that path anymore. But then once I started working with the drum and some of those shamanic medicine ways, that I realized, wow, I can still be a musician and do this. Yeah.
So you
Sorry, that was a long run on, wasn't it? You got to be careful.
I'm in love. This is awesome.
Give me the fishing, reel it in if you ever, because you've been in my training.
I'll give you the cut sign.
Except when I'm talking, you're like this little tiny window.
Oh. Well, let me ask you this, because I'm fascinated. Where you mentioned that you had experiences with shamans from different cultures, and give us a flavor of who were these people?
Well, I usually don't talk about my teachers' names. And
no, not that. Where were they from? Like where? Like what part of the world?
We have Peruvian, of course, is a big one, because that was like where I was originally feeling that connection and that medicine and that earth medicine there. So some Peruvian teachers, of course, Native American teachers and African teachers are really West African, particularly, and especially Nigeria, Yoruba tradition. So those were like my main, as far as teachers were either Native American, from South America, mostly Peruvian, and West African. The rest of the different traditions were more experiencing people. I was doing a lot of festivals earlier on, a lot of spiritual festivals where we'd meet a lot of teachers and sound medicine people at those too. It was a lot of pagan events, is what we used to call them back then, but other events that were just honoring the old traditions, which was honoring the earth and the cycles of the seasons, and how important music and the fire and dancing and drumming, what we used to do for tens of thousands of years, and suddenly we kind of left us.
Well, now we play Nintendo, right?
What's that?
Now we play Nintendo. I mean, well, look, I'm dating myself, but you know what I'm saying.
And so that's a lot of important stuff. So I had a lot of teachers. So I started incorporating some of the Aboriginal stuff, the Dreamtime ideas, and incorporating the didgeridoo, and started getting into some of the chanting and vocalizations and stuff, of course, and started getting into the Buddhist, the Tibetan Buddhism or other Buddhisms and the chants that they use, and also as well as I started really getting into kirtan and started playing a lot of kirtan with a lot of people. So exploring a lot of the different aspects of using sound for healing, for community, and as well as learning how to build drums and build native flute and drums and didgeridoos. So that another level of the relationship was really learning the nuances of creating the instruments and the relationship to the instruments through that way. So yeah, it still is evolving. I'm still constantly learning.
Nice. Where'd the name Three Trees come from?
So Three Trees came, so as I mentioned, when I got into shamanism and I quit the band and moved into the woods up in northern Michigan with my little drum. And that was tough, I have to say, because I was living my teenage rock and roll dreams. I was really living it, you know, and it was weird. On my 30th birthday, my 33rd birthday, gosh, things are getting a little in the brain as we get older. But you know, I had a moment. We came back from Peru, released a new album, and we played this venue called St. Andrews Hall in Detroit, where I used to go see all my favorite metal bands and stuff back then. My crossover punk bands and metal bands, and you know, and Slayer and Cro-Mags and DRI and all these cool bands. And suddenly we were headlining this place, and pretty much
that had to be cool. That had to be literally the coolest thing.
Yeah, and we pretty much sold the place out, and it was on my birthday, and I had this moment. It's like in the movies where everything slows down and people are just dancing, and you know, and like everything slowed down. And I don't think I took any drugs that night. Definitely some alcohol, but all of a sudden I was like, "What now?" is what it felt like to me. I kind of at the moment and got this little tunnel vision, and it was like I saw the slow demise of my soul and my life in this path that I had chosen. And I had this duality of this longing for this spiritual connection and something more, you know. And so I had explored all the ego stuff fully in the rock and roll band, or enough to be like, all right, now what, you know. And so when I quit the band and I moved into the woods and had that moment where I called out for medicine teachers, I also was very familiar through all the books I had amassed of the Vision Quest. So I knew I really felt this calling inside of me. It's like, you got to do a vision quest. You need to do a vision quest and really state your statements to the universe, to spirit, and do this ancient kind of thing we've done in the human experience to move forward on our spiritual path. So I ended up traveling across the country and found a spot in the woods up in northern Idaho, and sat there for 3 days. And I was lucky; it was only 3 days. Some people, you can take 2 or 3 weeks sometimes. And so normally it's done with a medicine person to help guide you, to check up on you. So it was a powerful experience for me. It was one of the life changing points when I'd really surrendered into that. And it was a big thing of surrender. So if you've ever gone camping, imagine going in a place where there's wolves and mountain lions and bears and rattlesnakes and and all these things that can do you harm and use you as a late night snack, and not having a tent, not having anything but a little bit of water and a blanket. And so the first couple of days, it was all about fear. It was all about, every twig that snapped in the middle of the night is like, is this it? Is this, and questioning everything. And then finally I was like, you know what? If my whole life has come to this moment where I quit this dream life that I was experiencing, or my childhood dream life, and I left it all, and I've found this spot miles out in the national forest, and to sit here and just to be eaten by a pack of wolves, then so be it. It was that level of surrender. It was just like, I'm in your arms. Whatever needs to happen, I'm here for it to happen. If that's to be eaten or to be awakened, maybe they could both happen at the same time. I don't know, but luckily, the plan was for me to get my vision. And so without getting, because usually that's a very kind of a personal thing too, but to touch, basically I was information by 3 different trees that I had realized on the third day that I was sitting in the center of this perfect triangle of trees. I mean, there was other trees. It wasn't like in the middle of a field and 3 trees, and I didn't notice that. But these
you mean the drugs wore off, and then you noticed there was only
right,
3 trees?
Right. You're right. But well, and you don't have to do drugs to do the spirit quest, by the way. I did not, and so when part of it is fasting, setting a lot of intention, and when you out there and you're that focused with your intention, you don't need to have drugs. That'll only like make it a little more convoluted, a little more confusing, I think. So for me, that's all I needed. But it was all about the ego, just totally releasing, surrendering, and then the vision came. That next morning it was like boom. Then these trees started glowing, and each one gave me information on my past, my present, my future, and I was recreating myself. And so I kept the name more for my own reminder. Back then, in the beginning, I needed a lot of reminders, but every time I would say it and hear it, then it was a nice gentle reminder of my new path and what I've chosen in my spiritual path now. And I needed those reminders back then. And of course, it was easier because I was heading west. I stayed at I entered a commune, aspiring retreat center in Kentucky for a while. And everyone I was meeting was new. I left Michigan. So if I would have went back to my Michigan rock and roll friends, it'd be like, I'm 3 trees now. They'd be like, yeah, okay, dude. But it was easy when I was just the groups I was gravitating towards, and everyone was new. So I just said, yeah, I'm 3 trees. And of course, when I moved to Sedona, that was like, oh, that's your Sedona name? And I was like, no,
that's
fine. That name for a little bit, but everyone in Sedona is like, yeah, I'm an Octurian. I'm a Palladian. So everyone's got different names there, and so I fit right in.
Yeah. Yeah, but you were the cool kid that did it first, so whatever with those other people.
Definitely not the cool kid or the first. But thank you.
You're welcome. So tell us about, we can see all the amazing instruments that you have just circling you, and they're just so beautiful and lovely.
I call this the mothership.
Really, literally, it's calling to me. So tell us about sound healing. If someone doesn't know what the power of sound is, right? Like, maybe we need a little, not just we should go with the historic reason, like who used it, and today is medical science, are they acknowledging that sound healing is a real thing?
Yeah, so sound healing is the oldest medicine that we have in the human experience. In the beginning, it was voice. That's the oldest sound healing instrument we have, is our voice. And I think the power of the voice, there was a lot more emphasis on it a long time ago, especially those who worked in energy or magic or whatever, right? It was all about the incantation or the power of the voice, right? Or the spell or the prayer, and right? It was all because this is a frequency that's getting out. So I'll just give you, like, for those who don't know about sound healing, I'll give you like my little spiel that I do a lot, which I know you've heard probably many times. But basically, the foundation of sound healing is that everything in the universe is frequency. And whether you're into quantum physics or metaphysics, they're speaking that same language, the same realization of quantum physics. It's like, hey, it all breaks down to vibration and frequency. And That's been said in metaphysics for a long time. Of course, energy was the old word, but that's frequency. And now if you notice, a lot of teachers have shifted. If you remember 10, 20 years ago, when we used to go to spiritual retreats and see speakers, and right, it was all energy and light.
Yes.
Right? They always spoke of the light and the energy. And now you'll hear a shift in a lot of the teachers. Now the verbiage is frequency, vibration,
Yes.
right? Everything in the universe is frequency, and that's everything that's solid, everything that seems to be nothing, like space, and also especially our intentions, our emotions, our thoughts, our feelings, as well as our past traumas, our limiting beliefs, right? You name it, there is a resonant frequency associated with it. So the idea of sound healing is really that we're using frequency to shift other frequencies. Now we know that other frequencies affect other frequencies. So if, as an example, like if you pluck a string on the guitar, the other strings will harmonically resonate and start to vibrate with that, because that one vibration, there's a harmonic resonant potential within those other strings that'll start to vibrate, it'll start to activate those. So if you think of the human body as a mass of frequency, as well as rhythmic patterns, so I'll speak a little bit more about the rhythmic pattern aspect, but right now just as frequency. So it's all communicating with itself through what's basically energetic frequency, and it's specific. And so the science of it is still not there yet as far as specifics, although people on the internet are trying to figure them out, but it's all hypothesized at this moment because we don't have the instrumentation to really tune in to see what's happening at that deep of a level. But it's something that's been happening for tens of thousands of years, and it's still around to this day because it works, because it's potent, because people have powerful experiences from it, from the ancient medicine people and the shamans from thousands of years ago to today, right? So to me, that's enough validation there. But the idea that these instruments are amplifying intention. So all these instruments have their own harmonic resonant sound that speaks to different aspects of us in different ways. The crystal bowl feels totally different and speaks to you in a different way. Then the drum speaks to you, then the gong speaks to you, then the flute speaks to you, then, right? So everything has different ways it's interacting with the emotional frequencies, the mental frequencies, the thought frequencies, the physical frequencies, and our more subtle energetic bodies. So when we amplify our intention, so one of my teachers would say, my African teacher, he hit the drum, he says, "This is your intention amplifier." Right? And that pretty much says it all, because if I have an amplification of peace and love and joy and health and prosperity and gratitude, right? These frequencies through my intention are being amplified or braiding with the sound of whatever instrument I'm playing, and being amplified into a higher vibratory state that's really activating those frequencies that already reside within you, because all the stuff is in our energetic field, and all of it, right? All the pains, the doubts, the guilts, the shames, as well as the loves, the peace, the joy, right? It's all in there. But what are we tuned into at the time, right? So if we're not tuned into pain, right? If we haven't shifted our attention to tune into pain or experiencing pain in some way that makes us, or someone else's pain that makes that come up within us, starts to activate that within us, then we're tuned into something else. So we try to keep the love and the peace as the main tuning that, or the intention that we're amplifying up, and then that activates those frequencies in you, that love and peace and joy, and all the harmonically resonant frequencies, right? So love is, if we say love is a frequency, then what harmonically resonates with frequency? Peace and joy and health and prosperity and miracles and abundance, right? So, and what resonates with fears, doubts, and guilts, and shames, and judgments of self and others, right? All this. So, but you can't have hate and love at the same time, because they're disharmonic frequencies. So you can bounce back and forth. I hate them, I love them. I hate them, I love them. I hate them. I love to hate them, I hate to love them. So, but you can't experience the feeling at the same time, because harmonic frequencies, right? So when we amplify love and peace and joy, it basically those frequencies can't really hold space, that are discordant, because these ones are being amped up into this higher vibratory state. And as the music takes us deeper into subconscious levels and working at different deeper energetic levels, it basically either realigns, integrates, or breaks it up and releases what is not serving or what is not resonant.
So that's how healing happens, by the release
Or integration,
or integration. Okay.
or the frequency will just shift it into its frequency. It overpowers it, which you can hear when you have a chorus and one person's off and they start singing along together, right? Maybe the first ohm is like, oh, everyone's voices, and the second ohm starts to come in, and the third ohm is like, boom, right? Like
Yes.
it magically, it's not magically, it's just like a universal law. Things want to harmonize in the universe. They want to find that place where they all match. And so the ego, the thing with the ego is it's not from the universe. So it doesn't resonate with normal universal laws and universal frequencies that are all about harmonizing, right? All about balance, right? All about working together. And so things, the universe and the plants, the animals, even on this earth, they don't resonate with fear and doubts and guilts and shames of them, of itself or others. That's the human stuff. We create that. And if we are divine beings, and we are fractals of God, or the infinite, or the divine, whatever name you want to call that, God's source, that when we are tuning into those things, it's not of us. And so we feed off universal energies, our body, our minds, our spirits, our energetic fields. But the things of the ego has to feed itself, because there's no supportive frequencies out there in the rest of the universe. The only thing that supports it is the thoughts of our ego. So we're powerful creators, and so we create these frequencies, right? And the ego, at some point in our childhood, we say, okay, I believe it, I'm separate, and then I'm broken, and boom, now I really step into the human experience. And once you say you believe it, now the ego goes from in the back seat to driving the bus. And the bus is going to keep driving you to reaffirm those things. See, I told you you're broken. See, I told you you're not good. See, I told you you should doubt yourself. You should be guilty about things or judge other people, right? It drives you through life trying to reaffirm that, to keep itself going, to keep the energy both individually and collectively moving. So as a human experience, the more we're involved in these frequencies and these thoughts and these emotions, the more we continue the evolution and the reality of brokenness and separateness, because we believe, right? So when we start to get out of that and really tuning into our love and our peace and our joy and our health and our togetherness, our oneness, we're all in this together, right? The more we start tuning into that, then the more that starts to drive the bus, right? And we don't want to get rid of, we can't get rid of the ego altogether, and we can't get rid of the memories, right? Or the traumas, or even we can change what they mean through the evolution of our heart and our soul and our experience, and what that means. Longer trauma. Actually, I'm grateful that I got to have a lesson to bring me one step further, or things along those lines. So with sound healing, it's really about, we can shift those frequencies harmonically to overpower them, and they fall into resonance, right? Where we bring it into this place of peace and love and joy, integrate it that way, or we clear it and move it. So there's different ways of doing that. But the thing I always like to mention is sound healing is not a cure-all, because if you have emotional trauma or limiting beliefs, we can energetically and frequency clear that stuff in the moment during a sound healing session. But the next time you're triggered, if you don't do the emotional journey, right? And really look at yourself and realize what stuff you need to work on. If you're not always trying to clean yourself up a little bit more, right? Looking at what's not in alignment with love and peace and joy, looking at where I'm like resonating with these doubts and guilts and shames and, you know, and these angers and these fears, to clean that stuff up. If we don't do that emotional journey, it's going to come back, right? It might not settle into the same energetic spot within the body, but if you don't do the emotional journey, next time you're triggered, it's going to start activating it, right? Next time you comes into your experience, it's going to start activating those feelings. So we still have to do the emotional journey. So the sound healing is a very important part to assist you along that journey. I don't even know if I answered your question.
You did. So
I don't even know what it was. I'm sorry.
Here's another question for you to forget. So you have this amazing education with sound and amazing experiences, and you've had all these different teachers, and you've been introduced to all these different instruments. So can you tell us what is the SoulMonic's offering that you have made with love to share with the world?
So it's an evolving thing, and it still is evolving. And you know, I said I was going to touch on rhythm, and rhythm was the big part that from my awakening. And so everything in the universe is frequency, but also what not a lot of sound healers are doing, except for maybe more traditional indigenous people with the rattle, the shakers, and the drums, is everything in the universe is also rhythmic. So everything's frequency and everything's rhythmic. So we're not just a mass of frequency in here, we're a mass of rhythms working together, playing together also, right? And if we look around us, right, the first thing we experience, you know, for 9 months is just this constant heartbeat, whether it's speeding up or slowing down a little bit, right? But rhythm is integrated into who we are. We recognize it. And the earth has electromagnetic pulse, and many planets and different celestial entities will have electromagnetic pulses that is pulsing, the cycles of the seasons, the precession of the stars, you know, everything is in rhythmic pattern. So our body also has that. So the drum came in as a very important part to me in the sound healing especially when my West African teacher, where they go very deep into healing rhythms, even more so than my Native American, Peruvian teachers. Yeah, they have some different healing rhythms, but in West Africa, they go very deep, and they've been doing it a long time. And so they really explore the rhythmic patterns and have been refining them over centuries and centuries, from rhythms of water and fire and air and masculine and feminine and different archetypal energies and things, that what rhythms will really tune into those. And then, of course, as powerful creators, once they start feeling how those are tuning into and refining those, they're also in that same kind of river, jumping in the river, let it take you to the ocean idea, is that it starts to carry energy. And over centuries and all those before have intentionally used those rhythms. We can tap into that. Those rhythms and those songs and chants will carry the energies along with it over the different generations, and keeps building and building, and we can tap into those things. And the body recognizes it also as something we did for tens of thousands of years. As I mentioned, we drum and we dance and we sang around the fire. So there's a deep cellular memory of the drum and rhythm and how it is in our life. You know, we hear a song, we just start clapping, or our foot starts tapping. We're not even thinking about it. The body does it on its own. Usually when we're thinking about it is when we
fail badly.
We're overthinking the clapping along, right? The mind gets in the way, but the body knows, right? So I think that's an important thing I wanted to mention, that what I incorporated in SoulMonic Sound Healing journey was I recognized this deep soul connection to the drum and different instruments. I was like, wow, it's like I've played these for you know, I got introduced to African drumming in Peru, and when you know, within a year I was teaching West African drumming to classes. It was like, it just it came to me like that. It was some sort of recognition. That's why I could say it's a past life. Now, whether you say an actual soul past life or genetic past life, but it's all in the DNA. So for whatever reason, I was more tapped into that aspect of my DNA in the human experience to really resonate with that. As well, in Middle Eastern music, kind of did the same thing, and just music in general, I guess I always kind of resonated with. But that was a big awakening and calling. And when I started doing sound healing, it was all about the techniques, the methodologies of my teachers, right? And you do this, and you use the drum here and the rattle there, and you're scanning, and for this chakra and that chakra and this extraction, and you know. And then I started getting into, after a few years, as I started to deepen my relationship with spirit of the divine, my personal experience of that, and what that is. As I started to deepen that relationship, I started going into that communion while I was doing the sound healing on certain levels. But what I noticed is I started disappearing. And from my experience of years and years of jam band, I think that was part of the training, was to learn how to do that. But I disappeared and was just focusing on this divine flow going through me, this love, this peace, this love, and this divine presence that was within me, and coming forth, that I was calling forth through these sessions. And what I realized was not only were people having more powerful experiences in the sound healing, but I was having a profound shift in my experience of it. Whereas before, if I did a sound, in most of my sound journeys, not only groups online when I do my Thursday nights, but private sessions, they're about 2 hours. And I do them that long. A lot of people have 1 hour journeys and things, because the mind takes a while for it to surrender. And I feel the longer you go, the deeper you go. So that's the way they just come out for me, is around 2 hours with a little integration beginning and end. But that I started to not get tired, whereas before, after a session or two, I have to take a break and like recharge, and maybe doing some muscle testing or some tapping, and so some clearing. But once I started really letting the divine just flow through and take over, and not think about stuff, my hands were still moving. Wow. Even though I'm not thinking about what I'm doing in methodologies or anything. I'm grabbing instruments, I'm doing them, they're just going where they need to go, right? And I could just keep going over and over. It wasn't draining me because I wasn't drawing from the limited human energy and experience. I was drawing from the infinite divine. And then it was just flowing through me. So I started to receive all the healing too, as exposed to expending my own energy and thoughts and whatnot. So that was a big shift. And what I realized was, it just came up, it's just like it's really deep soul connections. It's not, some sound healing, which is great. It all has its place in the greater picture. Since everyone's medicine and energy does, but that some people are more science focused and more this methodologies, it's method of this, and this thing you have to do, and it's all written out, and I'm kind of like this instrument to like follow the methodology, right? And when I really started to surrender and just let the divine take over, and using, of course, the vocabulary of the instruments that I got to build a relationship with. So I am kind of restricted to that, but to let that flow through, and then it's to the next level. Then it's not my idea of what needs to happen or the client's idea of what needs to happen, but this higher aspect of what is for the greatest good of the highest good of the all is what's coming through, is what I realized. And I was like, this is like soul stuff. It's not like this methodology thing I'm doing, this science, this whatever, and this is so I don't know, one night I was just sitting in Sedona on my porch, and it just came through, because I used to call it shamanic sound healing. And if for those who lived in Sedona or visited, and for those who don't, that's a term that's been kind of used a little too much over the years, and is kind of flippantly used, and even the power of that word doesn't have the meaning anymore, because so many people take a weekend training and they come back and I'm a shaman, and it's like, and I I've been practicing doing shamanic practice for you know close to 25 years or so, and so but I still don't call myself a shaman, because that's something that usually an actual indigenous man, out of respect for those who have put in the real shamanic training, those who all before us who would spend many years right side by side with the medicine person, and the medicine person waits till they feel, and they give you that title, when you're ready. And out of respect for those, it's to actually call yourself a shaman, that's a big deal. But it was really used a lot of, in a title given, but in Sedona, everyone's a shaman, everyone's a master. It's some spiritual, thing, modality, or philosophy. And I was like, you know what, I don't want to call it shamanic sound healing anymore. Foundations were suddenly came to my mind. SoulMonic. It's shamanic and soul sound healing put together, sound and shamanic and SoulMonic and or harmonic, right? So it was, yeah. It's been so many years now. Yeah, so it was kind of shamanic sound healing, was changed from shamanic harmonics sound, and I don't know, came up SoulMonic. And I was like, that's genius. We're buy the URL right now, right?
That's right.
But it was really about that. It was just much deeper than these kind of methodologies. This was a soul experience. And for me, what really was the big shift was my focus of especially when I started going into the groups, to really state the fact that this is about divine connection, that the sounds are working their magic and the intentions in there, and they're doing their stuff. But what's most important is your divine connection, to have an experience and get out of the humanness, and to remember that you're this divine infinite being, and that you are a powerful healer and a teacher and a co-creator in this life and experience, and to have that experience of connection. So they're kind of spiritual journeys, and the sound is just the bonus, I think. And it helps because and you get that in those states of meditation. But a lot of people, like the monkey brain, wants to keep going. And the beautiful thing about sound is that it fills the space that the monkey mind wants to fill with chatter and thoughts, and so it kind of fills that space with the sounds. And then what comes through are more of these divinely inspired inspirations or messages from source, so people will have these kind of shamanic experiences or spiritual experiences, these journeys, anywhere from colors to riding a cosmic whale around the universe or whatever. I've heard it all from all the spectrums, as well. But the physical stuff is powerful. People, who've had sciatica many years, and it's been just horrible, will lay on the floor, which is normally hard for them, and they'll get up in 10 minutes and they're like, this is the first time I haven't had sciatica in 10 years. People with arthritis is like haven't been able to snap their fingers in years, will come and they'll start snapping fingers. People with migraines, would you think my sound healings are fairly loud, because I use a lot of low end stuff, and the low end vibrations go through the body more. Higher frequencies tend to dissipate quicker on the surface, and of course longer sound waves tend to push through, right, like whales communicating miles to the ocean. I always have that volume up a little louder than most sound healers, and so that we incorporate those lower frequencies in a powerful way, but that they have these physical effects. And so those lower sound frequencies, especially the drum didgeridoo stuff, goes deep into the cellular stuff, into your bones, into your organs, into all the cells of your body, and really works in all the cells. They have a fluid, and the body's mostly 90%, 70 to whatever percent water, of course, which is a great frequency carrier. Bones are a frequency carrier. We're kind of set up to like receive frequency, right? Even our DNA is set up to receive and interpret frequency. that's, and we get messages. We're speaking to each other through our DNA, and our DNA takes information and translates it into energy and frequency and emits that, as well as receives energy and frequency and turns that into information that we use or activate within us. So it's really deep stuff, and it might take a while to really nail down the science of it, but I'm not really interested in the science. It's more about that divine connection aspect, and just surrender and allow spirit to come through and awaken within you, your higher self, and to receive it what's for the highest good, and whether that's for emotional healing or physical healing, or soul healing. It's all there to receive through frequency.
Wow.
Wow, did I
One
go
thing
up?
I have to apologize, everyone. I
You
looked
gotta
down
appreciate
and
it.
I was typing on my phone for a house member to please stay off the internet, because the internet got glitchy for a minute and I thought maybe we were sucking too much internet from us. So I apologize for looking down at my phone for a
Yeah,
moment back there.
yeah,
But okay,
that's okay.
so
I'm glitching too. Yeah, because you were a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, you're a little glitchy. So but we're full on. We're putting this on. So anyway.
Hopefully the recording will be
Exactly. So
fine.
I have had you in my home for a weekend
Yes.
giving 2 incredible SoulMonic sessions, and I can tell everyone my entire home still feels different. It felt enlivened and cleared and more energetic and more fluid, and it was almost as if you took this square hat home and it feels round now. It feels like energy isn't stuck anywhere, and
Nice.
so incredible.
That's awesome.
So please tell
Yeah.
us all how we can experience you and your amazing SoulMonic.
Well, thank you. And I can't take credit for all the amazingness, because I do give the credit to spirit, because some of the stuff I do when I'm in the mothership, the vocal singing, some of the drumming and stuff even, I can't do that unless I'm in that sacred space and allowing that divine to flow through me. But I appreciate your kind words. So every Thursday since March, I've been doing free weekly sound healing journeys. Every Thursday, 7 o'clock MDT, 6 o'clock Pacific. Right now, it would be 9 o'clock Eastern time until things shift. Or did they just shift?
They will this
They
weekend.
will. It's coming this weekend, yes. But either way, it's every Thursday, and
it's on Facebook?
And it's on Facebook Live. If you
Okay.
go to my Facebook page, Three Trees Sedona, or just search Three Trees on Facebook. I have my business page as well as my personal. Please like me, friend me. Well, you can't friend me. I'm full right now, but please like me. And I have it every Thursday, and then it's up for 48 hours. So if you can't turn in on the Thursday, you can tune in Friday or Saturday,
Nice.
when you can. And I have everything mic'd up. So what is also different in my sound healing is my group sound healing, which I've basically focusing on for quite a few years now. I use a sound system with subwoofers, full pay. Everything is mic'd, all the instruments, and people lay down and lay back. The lights go off. I usually do everything in the dark too, so people aren't tempted to peek or want to watch me play or something, which I have to change for live, because if people just scroll through and see a blank
Right.
thing, they're not going to,
They'll
what's
just keep
that?
scrolling.
So I do have, you can watch me now, but it's all professionally high quality audio mix. So if you put on a nice set of headphones or earbuds, or if you have a good sound system that you can Bluetooth, you can get, it's just like you're there. Yeah. Basically, it really is. So yeah, I do that every Thursday now until further notice, until I can start touring around again.
Yay us.
Yeah, about that, and give people hugs and yeah. So that's pretty much what I'm doing with sound healing as far as my training. So yeah, I do level 1, level 2, and SoulMonic Sound Healing, and which kind of balances the actual sound healing information with some of the spiritual, mystical, and shamanic traditions. How you incorporate. It's a nice balance of those. I think. Well, you've taken one of the
I've
trainings.
taken
So,
level 1. I'm waiting for level 2.
so I will start those again soon
Okay,
in person.
perfect.
Um, but we are doing, me and my partner Greta, amazing, which you have done an interview with,
Hmm.
amazing Greta Howe, which has been such wonderful combining, well, not just wonderful because it's taken my whole life and love experience to a new level, but the medicine that she carries is so wonderful. So we decided to put them together,
Hmm.
and we created a new healing retreat, which is called Sound and Spirit Retreat. So we have one here that's coming up. I think it'll be just over by the time people see this one, but we'll
Hmm.
have more of them.
Hmm.
Those are just kind of healing retreats where we incorporate medicine wheel teachings and soul retrieval work, and we do kind of Swatch style sauna kind of thing with drumming, chanting, sound healing journeys, and gong baths and crystal bowls, and we do vocal toning, and all sorts of relationship work. We move around the Peruvian medicine wheel and the archetypal stuff. It's too much to even mention, but it's really powerful 3 days. So that's kind of a new thing that's been coming forth, and we'll be recording some new stuff.
You have some CDs as well?
I have one CD that's still, I don't even know how many years old it is now. I didn't have my gongs. It's a little more shamanic because there's a lot more drumming.
The
Uh,
drumming, yeah. I
uh,
have it. It's
it's
amazing.
awesome. So if you really like a lot of drumming, that one's got a little
Yeah.
more. But all my stuff has a lot of drumming. And so that's, a big part of, I think, the difference in some of my sound healing journeys, is everything's amplified, mic'd up. And with the drumming, what I do is I have a looper pedal where nothing's pre-recorded, but in the moment, I can create an African ensemble or polyrhythms um, that I can't do by myself.
Great.
And so I can go with those deep healing African rhythms by using the looper, and also fade from one section to the next, to go from the drums to the gongs to the voice to the bowls to the didgeridoos to the flutes, and kind of all make it just kind of seamlessly kind of flow, which is nice, and to really be able to have those complex polyrhythmic patterns layered over each other with the looper. So that's something that's kind of, I think, is
Yeah.
very different. As far as I know, I might be the first person that really did that. Yeah.
Wow. So
Forgot the
we
question
get to
again.
be with you every Thursday night on Facebook Live.
Yes, and I will announce, when I'm doing some more trainings and we're
Okay.
having more of the healing retreat, and things have been shifting. Sound healing is expanding and growing. I remember when I started really doing the sound healings and going to spiritual conferences 20 years ago. Um, I was the only. I never met a sound healer. When I started using sound, I was like, oh yeah. And then I started hearing about sound healing, right? But there wasn't many people doing it. Tom Kenyon or Jonathan Goldman and a few others were kind of pioneers as far as bringing it forth as a
Mm.
modality. Of course, chanting and drumming, is thousands of years old, but calling it sound healing. And now I go to a conference, and there's 30 40 sound healers at the conference, and it used to be there's none or one or just me. And I've trained 100 at least probably a couple hundred people now, 150 people or so.
Mm.
And so it keeps expanding and growing and growing, and having hospitals call and
Nice.
integrating sound and frequency into hospitals. They're interested in different energetics of what the sound, whether it's for recovery or for rejuvenation or for sedation, or so all sorts of, they're
Mm.
coming up with different themes, and they want me to create things. So that's really exciting to do that for some of the healthcare networks. And of course, years back they started to bring in music therapy. And when you say sound healing, it's still a little woo-woo to people, right? So you
Yeah.
say, no, vibration therapy.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, okay. Vibration therapy. All right. Now we're therapy. Now we're interested. But people are coming around, more and more people are doing it. A lot of yoga classes, of course, are incorporating gong work and crystal bowl work for
Mhm.
savasana and different stuff. And it just keeps growing and growing. I see it growing and growing every year. And I just really see it heading more and more in that direction as how we start to integrate holistic healing into the healthcare network. Which is very badly needed, as a lot of us.
So we're going to go backwards thousands of years to stuff that actually worked.
Yes, but in a new way,
Right.
right?
But to get true healing, not just to mask the symptoms with a pill. I love it.
Exactly.
I
And it's
love it.
not just the physical level. It doesn't mean
Right.
don't do what, if you're supposed to get some work, you have some surgery or take some pill, doesn't mean don't do those things, just go into sound healing. It's
It's a
creating,
compliment.
it's a common, it's a wholeness. That's what holistic, healing is about. It's
Yeah.
incorporating the body, the mind, the spirit, the emotions, right, or the soul to get. Because if we only heal one aspect, and the body or the traumas that haven't been healed or whatever, then a lot of the stuff we experience as sickness or illness is related to frequencies, related to traumas, related to these things that have caused an energetic block in our system. And so if you only approach one thing, then it's not gonna do the whole work. It's only gonna be temporary,
Yeah.
because the body will eventually
Resonate
come
back
back into
with.
resonating with the traumas and the wounds, right? So those disharmonic frequencies of traumas and wounds, they settle in. We don't just tuck them away in the mind. They
Into
settle
the
in as a
body.
frequency into the joints, the muscles, the bones, the organs, and things like that, and cause a resistance in the natural flow of our life force energy or our chi energy. And those resistances eventually, if your body's not getting right, if it's settled in, it's not getting that life force for a certain amount of time, then something can go wrong. Something can start going into that dis-ease aspect. So it's important work, and I think people are starting to realize more and more. And I think on another soul level, it works so beautifully because the distractions of the 3D is so intense, and especially right now to have a couple of hours to just focus on allowing the divine to connect with you, to commune with that sacred presence within you, and really experience and remember, oh yeah, I'm much more than this human experience. I'm an infinite divine being, right? I'm fully connected, because we have this world that's all about disconnection, right?
Yeah.
And so it's such an important soul aspect to work that aspect of us, to keep our body working at its full potential physically as we work on our emotional and mental state and our divine connection. So to me, all those things together, it's in life, it's all about balance, man, right? It's all about balance. So, in everything. And I think
Yeah.
that's, yeah, I could leave you with one thing. I'd say that, man, it's balance, all of it. Bring it into balance, right?
Well, I'm glad that that's not all that you said to us. And I have to tell you, this has been really so enlightening. And if even if no one has ever heard what sound healing is, I mean, you've given us such a very rich and vast understanding of what sound can do for us and why we should investigate it, and how easily it is to investigate it with you every Thursday evening on Facebook Live. Who doesn't,
Mhm.
who can't make it there, right? So,
And it's still open for 48 hours after. So even if you miss it, you can still watch it for a couple days.
right. So you're just so generous, and it's such a gift of love. And I hope we can revisit another interview at another time.
Absolutely. Because as you know, yeah, if you really want to get crazy with this stuff, then go to one of my sound healing retreats where I'll go off on tangents forever, right? I got a lot more to say, man. It's good.
Exactly. I need to have you back. So for now, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today.
You're
I
welcome.
always
Welcome.
treasure your
Welcome.
insights and wisdoms and all the information that you so freely share with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It's been so wonderful, like just just our journey together
Yeah.
from when we first connected in Sedona, at different retreats, and then going out to Harleysville and your house there, and just the evolution of our experience together has been really beautiful, and proud to call you, just adore you, and to call you a friend. And yeah, and I don't know if I have to mention, but if you guys are crazy and want to know more about me, you can go to threetreessedona.com is my website, and there's a lot of stuff on there too, and some little video clips of like little sections of stuff. They're not great, but they're there. They'll give you an idea. And also, I have an Instagram now. I've caught up. I've dug myself out of the dinosaur age, and I've had it for almost a year now, I guess. But yeah, you can like me on Instagram, threetrees.soundhealing. And yeah, and then Facebook, and yeah, you can sign up for my newsletter on my website. Also, it'll pop up, and you can sign up and stay informed when I'm doing stuff.
Yeah, and I will have all of your information with this video, so everyone will
Awesome.
have that information as well, all
Okay.
typed out.
Awesome. Thank you.
So thank you again, and to everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Happiness Retreat. We hope you have gotten some inspiration, some guidance, and some motivation and clarity with the connection to your own soul and becoming the master of your own energy. So until next time.
Yes. Bye from Santa Fe, and I forgot to mention soon, East Coast next month, moving to the Berkshires. So
You'll be closer to me.
you'll be much closer. Yeah, and to my Michigan family too.
Excellent. Thank you all, everyone.
Bye, everybody.